What is up, YouTube? We are back here today. Big week on our hands. Big week on our hands here. We are just a handful of days out from the NFL Combine. So we're here to talk about that a little bit. See what we're expecting, things we've already heard from it. And we've also had the franchise tag period. So we're also going to go over that a little bit. If you are new here, I am your host, Dalton Lee, and this is the Fumble Pod. Now, so far the franchise tag period hadn't been too insane. Most notable ones have been George Pickens has been franchise tagged by the Dallas Cowboys, and Kyle Pitts has been franchise tagged by the Atlanta Falcons. And with that, kind of makes sense for both. Pickens, I figured they would have pushed for a long term deal. He had a great year for him. I think he was the team's leading receiver in almost all categories. So I figured they liked the chemistry with that. I think he works well with CD. You let Pickens be your slot guy, CD be more your outside, or vice versa. So I figured they would have pushed for a long term extension. Maybe they couldn't come up with one just because they're like, okay, you've had 1 year of productivity. Let's see you do it again. Me personally, I would have went ahead and gotten that extension done before he can potentially put together two great 1,000+ yard, 5+, or I think he had about 7 or 8 touchdowns this year. Because at that point, the price only goes up. I understand he's not getting any younger, but he's still at a decent age. I think he's 25, 26 maybe. So he's still got some gas left in the tank. So I figured they would have pushed for an extension. I would have tried to get an extension done. It's better to get an extension done early that at the time could seem kind of high, and then 2 or 3 years from now they're like, oh, they actually got him at a really good deal because of his productivity. But the Cowboys don't operate like that. We know this. They wait forever and drag their feet to get extensions done. It's the reason why Micah Parsons is gone. He'd put together 2 really good seasons. He was eligible for an extension. They didn't give him one. He had a great season. They wanted to give him an extension, but they still weren't really in the ballpark that he was looking for based off of his productivity. Get him out of there. Dak, they waited too long. He put up borderline MVP numbers. They gave him an extension. And when he's healthy, he's good, but you're tied to that contract now. You're paying him close to $60 million a year. I don't know how you build a team around it, personally. But the Kyle Pitts one is interesting. Just because Kyle Pitts did have a really good year last year. Mainly towards the end of the year. He started playing better as the year went on. And there was talks for a while that they almost like had kind of given up on him, and then he has this year, and now they franchise tag him. And it's like, do you give the guy the ball, or are you not going to? Because me personally, he's got the skill set. He's got the skill set to be great. We knew this coming out of Florida. He's a freakish athlete. We saw his rookie year when he had 1,000 yards. Didn't score a whole lot. This was probably his best year for touchdowns, but he could get the ball and make plays. And I think if you built an offense or catered to his touches being close to Brock Bowers level, he'd put up similar numbers. I do think the skill gap between, say, a Brock Bowers and a Kyle Pitts isn't that far off. So you could get the same level of productivity out of both. But I don't know if the Falcons will be in a position to pay him. Because Brock Bowers, if he's healthy and stays on the field and puts up the numbers he does, he'll get a payday. But I still don't know if they're going to be able to pay Kyle Pitts if he has another year like this past year or grows upon this year that he just had. You still got Drake London you got to pay. You got Bijan Robinson in the background you got to pay. You got some young up-and-coming guys on defense, mainly Jalen Walker. You're going to have to pay them if they keep producing. There's only so much money to go around. And potentially have to pay Kyle Pitts. Not Kyle Pitts. Well, yes, Kyle Pitts, but Michael Penix if he can put together some solid seasons and show you that he can be a potential franchise guy. Not everybody can get paid. At least not the level they want. Whereas I think if Kyle Pitt went on the open market, I think he'd have a good amount of teams calling about him because there's going to be somebody out there that looks at him and goes, with that skill set, that speed, that size, I can give him the ball and make him a playmaker. Like, I would be terrified to see what somebody like Andy Reid would do with him. I understand Travis Kelce's still on the board as of right now, but someday that sun is going to set. If you could have gotten the ideal position of letting Kelce have one last ride, but then kind of show Kyle Pitts how to be a pro NFL tight end, him and Mahomes would be interesting. Truly would be interesting. But there are still going to be some notable tight ends and players on the open market. This isn't a big free agency period for like quarterbacks per se. So if you're a quarterback needy team, you're in hell. You're truly in hell because this draft class, outside of Mendoza, it's not a great class for quarterbacks. And you look at the open market and you're like, who even is available? I mean, the biggest name is probably Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Now you can get into the speculation of the trade rumor mill. You know, there's people saying, you know, Cardinals might move off of Kyler Murray. Tua might be up for sale. Who knows? But again, who's really trading for those guys? I've seen talks and ideas of maybe the Jets going after one of them. I think they'd be better off probably with Kyler Murray just because that offensive line isn't great. And having somebody that's a little more mobile can help out with that. But Kyler Murray's normally good to play for half a season, if that. We saw it this past year. We saw it the year before. I think the last time we seen him put together a healthy year was the year they started out 8-0, kind of dragged their way into the playoffs and lose in the first round. And he still got banged up some in that season. He just hasn't shown that he can stay healthy and stay on the field. But outside of, you know, kind of a lackluster free agency class, there are a couple guys that I think will get a decent payday. Mainly being a guy like Isaiah Likely. I think Isaiah Likely is going to get a payday. I understand this past year wasn't a great year for him, but the year before, he had a great year. When he was kind of looked at as the tight end one of that Ravens team, he played great. He's got a great skill set. He can stretch the field. He's got a lengthy frame. He can come down with some contested catches. I think you put him up with a team that's, you know, in need of a big body tight end on third downs, red zone. He can make some plays. He easily, I think, could be a 800 plus yard, 8 plus touchdown guy. I'd love to see him in Carolina. I think it'd help out the receiver core. It'd help out Bryce Young. But there's a handful of teams that you could say that the Chiefs could use a tight end. It wouldn't shock me if maybe he went to somewhere like, he could go get the bag in Tennessee, help out Cam Ward. I just don't think he wants to go somewhere just to get the bag. I think he wants to be somewhere where they can be good, be competitive, you know? I'm trying to think of the several teams. I mean, he could go back to the Ravens. The Ravens could throw a good bag at him. Him and Lamar worked really well when they were actually playing together. He could pull a move and go play with Joe Burrow. The idea of him and Joe Burrow together would be pretty good, along with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. The problem is they can't pay him. But it's an idea. We're just throwing out hypotheticals at this point. I think the team that would give him the best chance of being competitive and giving him the most money is probably either the New York Giants, which he would have that connection with John Harbaugh, or the Carolina Panthers. Just because I look at the New York Giants and I'm like, you're a couple pieces away from being competitive. Not saying Super Bowl, but competing for the division, a wild card spot, something along those lines. You already got the defense figured out outside of maybe a piece or two in the secondary, and you got some core pieces on the offense. You got your left tackle in Andrew Thomas. You got Jackson Dart. Cam Scatterbo when healthy. You can draft another guy for some depth. And when he comes back from his ACL, Malik Neighbors. Throw Likely in the mix, maybe draft another guy in second, third round, or first round. Who knows? You're starting to look like a competent team in a division that we never know what the Cowboys are doing. The Eagles, I don't know what they're going to look like because of the OC changes. You could be competitive. I'm not saying you're going to be great, but you could You could be this year's Carolina Panthers, win 8, 9 games, sneak your way into the postseason, maybe shock somebody in the first round. Who knows? And then on the flip side, talking about Carolina, I think a lot of their needs is more so on defense and maybe putting a little more help around Bryce. So I would think Isaiah Likely being tight end number one. You just got the rookie of the year, Teteroa McMillan. And you still got young pieces like Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette. You got Chuba Hubbard in the backfield. Jonathan Brooks, if healthy. I'm still on the Jonathan Brooks train. I understand. Panthers drafted him. He's played 1.5 games. But he looks explosive. He looks like he could turn a 2-yard play into a 70-yard play if healthy. Granted, this was before he tore the other ACL. So who knows if the explosiveness is even there. So it would not shock me if they looked at maybe getting another running back. But if you got guys like Likely, Trimble, Jatavion Sanders, it's a decent tight end room. Wide receivers are sneaky good. Obviously, Teteroa McMillan, offensive rookie of the year, he should only blossom. And you got guys like Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette, still young, still could develop and be really good guys. You throw Likely in the mix, that's just another body he can throw the ball to. Help out the offense a little. I don't hate it. And you're looking at a team that just won the division, can only get better. They're young. They got a lot of cap room. I wouldn't hate the idea. But I would think it's them or New York that makes the most sense off of the dome, personally. And then we get to the draft. The draft is still a ways away. We got the combine. This is where I would say most of the time you're big names, but you're guys that are kind of floating between areas. Guys like Sonny Styles, Avril Reese, Anthony Hill, guys like that where you're like, okay, we vaguely know where they should go just based off of production in college. Now let's test them. Let's see what their times are looking for the 40, cone drills, short yard. You know, this is also where you get them into a meeting room. You throw up a whiteboard. You're asking them questions, drawing up plays, coverages, XYZ. This is where you get the goods of A, knowing their intangibles off the field, the intelligence, how they read, react, so on and so forth, digesting information, along with how they react on the field. Physically, can they make plays? Can they get to this spot? Can they do this? Can they do that? Read and react. Now, we already know Mendoza said he's not going to throw. He said he's going to wait till his pro day back at Indiana to throw with guys that he's comfortable with and to show off their skill sets, which a nice guy to do. A nice guy to do. Granted, Mendoza could say he's not going to throw at all. He's just going to answer questions, show off the intellect. He's still going to be number one overall pick. He's going to the Raiders. We can pretty much knock that down, put the house on that on FanDuel. You're good. But the position groups I'm looking at mainly is the tackles, D-line, and linebackers. And I'll throw Caleb Downs in there. Because Caleb Downs, just based off of what he did at Ohio State, could go pick 5 or go all the way to pick 12 to 15. But if he goes out there and runs a 4-4 test grade, they get him in a meeting room. He knows coverages. He knows how to read and react. He meets well. He interviews well. He could skyrocket. But I'm more so interested in how he's going to turn out, how Sonny Styles is going to turn out. Because we look at some of these mock drafts and it's like, okay, well, you got Sonny Styles going over Avril Reese here. But then over here, you got Avril Reese over Sonny Styles. Who's the better player? Honestly, they kind of go tit for tat, in my opinion. They're both really good players, played for a really good team, great defense coordinator, and are both phenomenal players. I just look at it as which is going to fill bigger needs for your team. Do you need pass rush? Do you need off ball? What do you need? Avril Reese is the better pass rusher, without a doubt. He's still mobile enough to go off ball here and there, but I don't want him dropping back 30 times a game. I want him getting after quarterback. He's got good speed, good size. He's got nice moves, good footwork. You can also tell throughout games that he sets up other moves. If he's been rushed to the outside, he's eventually spinning back in, making a play, vice versa. He's keeping the offensive linemen, the tackles, on their toes. He's mobile enough too to run stunts inside, stunts outside. He can move men in order to set up other stunts for other players. He's a strong guy. Whereas Sonny Styles, I look at and I'm like, okay, he can blitz, get after the passer, but his read and react time is really good too. He's really good in coverage. And he's mobile enough to keep up with a lot of running backs in space. So I do think it's going to matter about how they test, but I do think ultimately a guy like Sonny Styles is going to go over Avril Reese just because teams are going to look at him and be like, he could probably defend majority of the field and keep up with a lot of guys. If he runs anything under a 4.5, somewhere in the 4.4s, he's a top 6 pick. Easily. Easily a top 6 pick. Because the team's going to look at him and be like, that's our new Mike linebacker. He's going to be able to make plays in the backfield just because of his speed and athleticism. And at the same time, be able to stick with a lot of running backs, tight ends, maybe a handful of receivers, and just interrupt passing lanes. He's a big guy. He's about 6'3", 220. He can make good tackles, great form tackler. I think if he tests well, he's going to put himself in a top 6 pick, as will Avril Reese. Just because they're both kind of jack of all trades, but they more so specialize in one area versus the other. Avril Reese, the better pass rusher. Sonny Styles, the better pass coverage. But then I'm looking at the rest of the guys on this board. You got Cassius Howell. You got Cedric Folk. You got guys like that are kind of floating around the area. You know, some because of their lack of size, lack of speed, but they make up for it in other grounds. Kind of seeing where they go based off of team needs, how other things progress throughout the offseason, so on and so forth. I'm keeping my eyes out on mainly 2 guys to see where they go. If they're going to work their way into first round picks, maybe be a sleeper second round pick. And that is Cedric Folk out of Auburn, the defensive end, and Anthony Hill, the linebacker out of Texas. Okay, 3. Chris Rodriguez, linebacker from Texas Tech. I'm interested in those 3 guys because we know there's players on those rosters outside of them that will get drafted and perform really well. But them, I've seen a wide range. Keldrick Folk, I've seen go anywhere from a potential sneaking into the top 15 all the way to a late first round. Anthony Hill, I've seen some people say he's the second best linebacker in class. Some people have him going early third. Chris Rodriguez, for the most part, has been a solid, consistent third round, maybe late second. I'm going to start with Chris Rodriguez. That guy had an argument for potential Heisman. Arguably looked like one of the best linebackers in college football. The stats suggest it. The game film suggests it. I think it's more so going to be how does he look testing wise. He's an older player. I think he'll be 22, about to be 23 this year. So he's an older player. But if he tests well and you get him into a classroom and you can sit there and go, this guy knows coverages, he would know assignments. He looks like a guy that can, in his first year, make 80 plus tackles, force a couple turnovers, and kind of be the quarterback of a defense. Teams that are like, we could use a guy like this to help our defense that's already fringely good, could be better, into a good to great defense almost overnight. I like his attitude, the way he plays. He plays aggressive. He finishes through tackles. He'll let a naysayer know, so on and so forth. He's a gritty guy. He gets after it, high motor. I think if he tests well, goes in the classroom well, he could sneak his way into a second round pick. I don't think he's going to jump all the way into the first round pick just because there's been some of the injury things. He is a little older. His window of development is smaller, especially in a position that's so violent. And honestly, at this point, you almost need to be able to run with anybody on the field. But I think he could still find a home in the right team, right system, and put him in a position to be able to make plays. Anthony Hill, I feel like, is more so not as polished as Chris Rodriguez, but is freakishly athletic. I feel like he can run very well. He's a big guy. He can make tackles. He helped helm a Texas defense that kept him in almost every game. I mean, hell, week 1 against Ohio State, who was arguably the best team in college football outside of Indiana, who averaged almost 30 points in every other game, only could score 13 against Texas. And it wasn't because the offense was necessarily bad. That Texas defense is phenomenal. And he led the forefront. He made plays all over the field in the run game. He gets in passing lanes. He's a hard guy to have to throw over and around. He can cover a lot of ground. I think he'll be able to test very well, go into the classroom, show that he knows what's going on the field, play in and play out, and sneak his way into being a potential first-round pick. He's a guy that him and Rodriguez are guys that I would like Panthers to get. Kind of shore up a linebacker room, get some guys that can play to pass, fit run gaps, and make some great tackles. I understand the Panthers aren't the only team that needs guys like that. This weather is killing me. Living out here in North Carolina, that weather kills me. The body gets used to it being 60 to 70 degrees. Now it's back down in the 40s. It's just the body doesn't know what to do. Doesn't know what to do. And Keldrick Folk, defensive end from Auburn. He's a weird kind of player. He's listed as a DN, but he's a bit bigger, bit heavier. He almost has the body type. I believe he's like 6'3", 6'4", about 290. He's a big guy. He's almost a borderline D tackle, rush D tackle. You could use him as probably your 3 to 5 tech in a 3-4 defense. But he could still probably play a traditional kind of outside guy, power rusher. He looks strong. Not strong. Strong. He moves people. That Auburn defense was pretty good. He led the front there. Production-wise, wasn't the best year, but when you're the only major threat on the defensive line, you're going to get all the double teams, chip blocks, and still, he affected plays. He got after the quarterback. Forced throwaways is better than allowing completions. Again, I think if he tests well, he'll solidify himself as a first-round pick and might jump some guys. I do still think Avril Reese is going to be the first pass rusher off the board, but he could sneak his way into being second off the board over a guy like Cassius Howell, who, by tape, I think go kind of tit for tat in terms of production and skill set. Or Bailey out of Texas Tech, who also had a really good year, but a lot of people look at as unfinished, more so raw talent, kind of like I should know this name. A former Texas Tech player that got drafted to the Raiders 2-3 years ago that was just freakishly athletic. The name will come to me in a minute, or it's just going to be gone into the ether. If you know that name, let me know, because it's in the ether right now. But Bailey is still just so freakishly athletic. I still think somebody's going to take a chance on him in hopes that they can develop some moves for him. Because if he can get some moves just with his athleticism and size, he'd be a threat. He's got speed to come off the edge where it wouldn't shock me if there are plays that he doesn't even get touched or is barely touched and is just able to slip right on by and get in the backfield. And then it's like quarterbacks getting the ball, next thing you know, he's got a guy right there. I think if you need defensive linemen and linebackers, I think this is the best draft for you. The offensive line we know is going to be very good. You got 2 tackles coming out of Utah. You got a tackle coming out of Bama. Proctor is playing good. Fanu from Utah. Two very good guys. And then you got your top three. If you miss out on the three, you're probably still going to get a really good tackle in this class. I would say there's at least 4, maybe 5 tackles that could potentially sneak their way into the first round just because at this day and age, in order to be successful, you need tackles, quarterback, and at least a defensive end, if not 2. If you got those guys, you got almost enough to be competitive and be a contender. You look at Seattle, who just won the Super Bowl. 2 really good tackles, dominant edge threats, a quarterback that has a skill set to be good or great, plays good, and has one wide receiver that's a weapon, a certified baller. That's all you need. Everybody else, they can just be above average to good, but you got to be great at tackle, quarterback, defensive end, wide receiver. Maybe a corner, but even then, you don't have to necessarily be great at corner. You can just be good at corner. Because then you look over at New England. They're great at corner. They got a solid defense line. They were still getting pressure on Sam Darnold. They got a really good quarterback. Their issue, they have no true great tackles. Will Campbell's young. He was a rookie. We'll see how he develops. Looks like he's going to get moved to guard, I would think, and maybe they go get a real tackle. And they don't have a true wide receiver one. That's just there's only 2 small differences between New England and Seattle. And we saw how big they play in the biggest game. You got to go get you a good tackle. You got to go get you an edge rusher. From there, you can build up and make a really good football team. I'm excited to see how this combine goes. I'm excited to see how people test, how these mock drafts change. I can't wait post-combine to get a mock draft out. But that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If there's a guy that you're hoping your team gets in the draft, let me know down below. Until next time, deuces.